We'll call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Indivisible.
Yeah.
Want to make a motion to approve our agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. I didn't hear any additions.
Well, if it is, I'll make a second.
All right, any more discussion? I want to change anything before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Got our previous minutes from November 1st.
Make a motion, we approve the previous minutes from November 1st. Second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second.
I want to say one thing, when,
Okay, we got
on the one vote that we had 4-1, do we have to name the commissioner that made the no vote?
Oh, yeah, we should.
Okay, yep, it's just a commissioner. And then it didn't have,
Oh,
okay,
I will add that in. Thank you for
Okay.
catching that. Yeah. That was Dewey, right?
yes,
Okay.
I just thought,
That was
so,
error on my part. Sorry.
no, that's good. You know me, I tend to read them through.
I'll amend my motion to include the correction of this.
Okay,
in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Anybody in the public want to comment on anything? Okay, we'll move on to appointments. Okay, everybody okay with the consent agenda?
Yeah, that looks to be pretty much self-explanatory. I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as is. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. Action items, consider the option presented by Collaborative Design Group. It's 10/31/22 space utilization study. Verification, proposed fee. Yes.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
Fred Milford of Collaborative Design Group forward at the board's request, forwarded an proposal that included an option as requested for the historic jail, as well as an additional fee for the Justice Center. So it's in front of the board for their discussion, consideration, and that was put in the packet.
Yeah.
Before.
It is what it is, I think.
It's pretty straightforward, so we just need direction as to the board's preferences and intentions.
Is the person on the phone, is that Mr. Merkford?
No,
No, they're not.
Okay,
John.
anyway, do we have, in the original proposal of 49.8, how much of that was towards the historic jail? Do we think, do we know? I mean, I know we had original numbers here a couple weeks ago that this was the original proposal. And then when we added in the Justice Center, it came up with another fee. And as I'm reading this right now, it shows a new fee of 61.7. And then if we include historic jail, it's another 14. So I'm wondering of that original 49, did they give us a breakdown as to how much for each facility?
No, they based, it is my understanding when was talking with them, this would be the offset of that 1420 to the 40. Excuse me, the offset was in the additional fee there. The majority of the work, as I understand it, is to work with the in that 49.8 as well as in the additional fee to include the Justice Center is set forth above to work with the various departments. And so that's how they determined what the cost would be and how they did their offsets. I'm not exactly certain how they did those.
So our new proposal will be 61.7. And if we decide to continue with the historic jail facility, that's an additional 1,400. So now the old jail is only 1,400. And our new proposal for 3 buildings is 61.7.
Right.
Is that my understanding?
So it says here.
Yes,
And when they met with the board earlier, or I guess it was later last month, they clarified that the majority of the cost is for working with departments, trying to determine need, trying to determine best co-locations, if at all, and and that it wasn't a building by building cost, although it is my understanding that they, when making the adjustment, if you desire to put the historic jail back into the mix, it would then just be that lower fee of 1420 based upon how they would potentially co-locate offices and which offices those would be.
There aren't too many department heads in that building currently.
not, yeah,
No, the study is based on how to utilize the space. So that's going to be primarily just working with.
So if we would have requested to have the RFP to include the office space we currently use on this campus, we would have got a more clear picture of the bid.
I believe what they did was they clarified after the request of the board here.
But I'm talking about the original request to study space utilization study. Include the office space we currently use on this campus.
As I said, Commissioner, it is my understanding that the majority of the cost is working with the departments, trying to determine what kind of space they need. There is a cost associated with how one might divide buildings up or put people in it, but the majority of the time they have repeated this over and over, is spent with working with the departments to understand the actual need, then to determine what kind of square footage those offices would be. Could there be office sharing? All of you co-locate people, what kind of efficiencies might you gain, if at all? So that was on a
So their
space
original-
utilization study. It's not just simply the square footage of the building. That is, according to Mr. Melkert, the square footage of the building is and determining who then, once you determine what each department's square footage needs are and how that translates into office space, shared office space, common areas, meeting areas, storage areas, and so this additional 11,830 is then to that initial part is, as they mention in their, as they outline in their letter there is to add those additional offices. And then also how much they a fee for then looking at the facility itself.
So it'd be safe to say the original proposal of $49,880 is basically for just the two office buildings, the courthouse and the Highway 44 building, community services building.
It's not just for those it's primarily for these offices that are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 departments. And to determine what their needs are. There was, it's my understanding, an offset. If you added more offices and took this other building away, how much, what would that net increase be? And that is, computer is not. And that is set forth as 11,830. To pull the historic jail back into it as potential usable space would be because they've done some initial work out there. I hesitate to use the word nominal, but a much lower fee of $14.20.
So that 1420 could be taken away from the original proposal of 49,880.
That's not what I said, Commissioner. I said.
Well, I'm just asking.
No, the 1130 was figured based upon, said this is my understanding, based upon if you weren't looking at that building and had to pull in these additional departments of the Court of Men, County Attorney, Sheriff's, Corrections, as well as looking at that space, that would be, and pulling the other one out and not looking at that, that would be the additional fee they identify as an additional fee of 11,830.
You have the original. First one,
They were,
how much was the original?
49, let me pull that up.
You won. 3.
51.
51.3, if you take 49,880 plus the 14.20. Because the original quote was for the Meyer building, this building, and the jail. Old jail. The old jail. But we wanted to add the County Justice Center. So now we're taking 49,880 plus the 11,830. The original quote should have included the, the option to add the historic jail doesn't make sense if it was included in the 49,880 in the first place.
I understand what.
51.
Well, that's why I was trying to get.
That's what you were getting at.
I understand what you're saying. I can send that to you folks right now if you wish. Let me get
Just say it.
Well, it's a long document.
But it must have a bottom line.
I agree with Bob that if we, if it was already included in the original proposal, we should only be looking at the 11,000 and including the historic jail.
Yeah, but it was an option here presented to us the last proposal.
But then it should have been subtracted from the 49,880.
Probably was if it's, if it's,
I don't remember what the original was.
I don't know, not, I think it was,
I could go back and. pull
I think
my
it was
minutes.
51, like you say, Bob.
I think so.
That's the case.
Why is it not that obvious here? Just,
But it doesn't explain here in this proposal.
it might be best to have them explain their own proposal then.
It says down here on alternate to further explore the use of the historic jail, but it doesn't give any details of what that $1,400 fee in details. I mean, because we spent $75,000 on looking into the use of that jail back here in 2017. 16. So a lot of that work is
No,
already
it's
done,
not.
so I'm just wondering, curious what, he said it was like 8 hours. What is that 4 plans or something again?
The way I understand that, that was for how you would set the floor plans for that second.
I think to make a determination of what we need
Mhm.
and
My
then how much it
computer's
has to
hopping
be in
all
the
over
old
the
jail
place.
to determine how much of it we have to do.
Right.
Is the original 3.7 million or whatever. Exactly.
6.7.
That was to do the jail block, the cell block. Basement, the first, second, third floor, I mean, the attic floor too.
And we don't need all
Don't
that.
need all that. But
We don't know that.
we don't know that until they do the study, right?
So that's why we should just study what the current office space we use. Leave the jail off for now and see what that's.
If we can make it. I'll go along with that. My only question is the 1420 duplicate?
I think that's what we should. I think that's what we should do is just. Leave the option out for the historic jail, because that's already been studied,
Okay,
and do the,
I have, it was 49,880.
That was the original. So we're duplicating.
You sure about
14.
Yeah, we are.
That's what was, yep, I'm pretty sure.
all right,
That's what it
well,
was. I mean, I will,
I make a motion that we accept the proposal. With the additional fee of $11,830, total base fee of $61,710 to do the space utilization study. And leave off the additional optional fee for historic jail of $14. See what that. See what the study says.
I agree with your motion. With the exception that. Shouldn't we take $1,420 off if we're not doing the old jail?
Yep,
And it was included in the 49,880 in the first place?
right.
If that's the
Well,
case,
That's what they said, because it was the Meyer building, the old jail and this building.
Then we should subtract that 1420 from the original 49.
Seems to me.
I'll amend that to say that.
I would agree, that seems reasonable. I do believe we need clarification then to make sure that the additional fee did not already take that into consideration of that offset. When saying, well, if we're not doing this, then what would the additional amount be?
right now.
Do you understand what I'm
I see
saying?
what you're saying, that they already took the $1,450 off. In the 11,830.
That's my understanding they did. But I can get a clarification on that if you wish. I think we should. Because when we had the discussion with.
Yeah, it was
the full-
13 something.
Yeah, that's right.
Well. I'll stick with my original motion to do the 61. 61,710.
61, 740. Okay, well,
710 I got here.
I'd rather go.
You still second that, Greg?
Yep, that's the second half. Any more discussion?
When we
And
vote
then-
on this, I would like Tess to verify though that that is the case.
That'd be fine. Yep.
Get that checked out, so we get clarity on that.
Mhm,
And then we're using 50,000 of ARPA money,
mhm.
correct?
Right.
And so we're gonna have to find an additional, whether general fund or
Mhm.
capital improvement fund or whatever. To pay the difference.
Should we do this by roll call or do we want to do it by? Sure. Okay, let's do roll call.
Okay. District 1,
No,
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes,
District 4,
Yes,
District 5.
Yes,
Okay, I will I will email for a written verification of exactly how that was determined. And provide you with that email. Is that? Okay, would that be appropriate?
Mhm.
Acceptable?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
board updates. Yes, I didn't have really nothing since last week. Just make sure you will vote today. Aside of that, I don't have any meetings this week that I know of. We got, well, I'll bring up with now, we have canvassing of ballots on Monday. And I'm on it. Anybody else? So Bob was on it last time. So that's not my Bob. Yes. But somebody wants to do it.
I can't. No, fair.
fine with me that Bob and you do it.
Okay. I was on 14th that one.
yes, sir.
I guess that's all I got. I said, how about you, Teresa?
I didn't have any extra meetings. I am working election from 2 to 10 today. As you see, I'm in red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
The Crescent Township always splits their days up, and I think that's such a good thing. Otherwise, it's too long of a day to go from 6 in the morning till 10 at night.
well, we raised ours up $20 to work, so we have a lot of people.
Oh, good.
We don't have any trouble.
Okay.
Got call, fights and thoughts.
Well, that's okay, because it's.
All people take off of work, so I mean, you gotta be compensated.
Mhm.
Well, I attended the La Crescent Bike Trail meeting with Dewey the other day, Thursday. I'll let him report on that.
you were involved more so in that one. I was observing and talking with the locals and you were involved with that one group pretty extensive, to be honest with you.
But I shouldn't have been. But
Learning experience.
it was. They busted the room and there was probably 40 people. 50
There were
people.
40, I
Okay.
counted.
And they busted us up into 4 groups. Gave us a map of La Crescent. And a map from La Crescent to Miller's Corner. This is a study group for just the trail from La Crescent to Miller's Corner. And
Not the Boca, just.
not to Hoka, just to Miller's Corners.
It's just the one grant,
Just
So
one
they-
grant.
So that one doesn't include all the way to Boca, just.
Nope.
just
Alright.
to Miller's Corner with that particular
Okay,
grant.
all right.
So this is
It's
one piece of the bigger puzzle for clarification.
We get a piece.
the Most difficult area of the whole.
Like Johnny Cash.
Anyways, so we sat down and first they wanted to highlight all the significant points in the press. You know, the city hall, the school, the churches, the business district, you know, the parks, the swimming pool. So that, you know, putting your little red sticky dots on all these important things. Then it was, where should the trail go? What's your first option? And virtually everybody's first option is to run along the swamp below the railroad tracks and build an elevated bridge type trail. But when you do that, you gotta cross the highway, you gotta cross the tracks, and you run down the river, then you gotta cross back over the highway, back over the railroad tracks to get to the other side. So maybe we could do a tunnel, but the tunnel would be underwater, which makes no sense. And that kind of a thing. And there was another one that took it down Highway 16 on the right-hand side as you're going towards Hoka. And widening the drive lane or widening the bike trail shoulder along there. Some difficulty because the bluff comes down pretty close to the road. So you'd be carving into the bluff, making a wall. And you're crossing some driveways in one particular property with the llamas and stuff is really close to the highway. So that's a bit of a problem. But no crossing the tracks twice, no crossing the highway twice, it gets you around the corner. There was another one that talked about going up and over the bluff. You got ADA requirements that are 5%, so you're gonna be doing switchbacks like crazy.
It should do a ton there.
And some of that land is tribal land. No possible way you're gonna get to go through that. Then there was another one that liked the idea of going on the outside of. The original brought us into La Crescent and around La Crescent and then down Oak Street. There was another one that came in behind Weezer's, behind the trust company, going underneath the highway, then behind the state shop, the city shop, that, you know, all those businesses down there running just the shoreline till you got to that elevated trail down there. So those were the main ideas. From a practicality point of view, go down the right-hand side. But this meeting had, cost was not an issue. Didn't matter how much it cost, it just, this is what we'd like to see. So. Is there ever?
So just to expand on it, just so everyone is aware, so. Each entity, meaning Houston, Hoka, La Crescent, Houston County, all appointed 2 people to represent that area. And those meetings are gonna be public. We're gonna start meeting. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. But this is just a small portion of this. A grant was received just to kind of do a dreaming exercise and some experts came in. So just to clarify that none of this is set in stone. And even if there was an ideal route, there surely will be obstacles and the route surely would change many times before this actually happened. So just to clarify so that people, if they listen in, are not knowing, are knowing that nothing is set in stone, obviously.
Nothing that, you know, it's just, what would you like to see? What would be the coolest? What would be the best?
Yeah.
That's all it was.
That's the 16th of November
Okay,
is the
yep.
first one for the bike trail committee at Hoka.
It would be-
At
Yeah.
the fire station.
It's fire.
Was one of the options also. Maybe possibility between the railroad tracks and Highway 16? Was that ever brought
It
up?
was never talked about.
It wasn't.
The terrain through there is such that it would be very difficult. You'd have to get railroad approval.
Well,
because
that's what I was gonna say, because there's the state right away and then there's the railroad right away. I'm sure they meet.
There's
Not
not
overlap.
I think they overlap, and the problem on the maps I've seen in the past is. And the terrain is, the grade there is so deep in order to level off path
Yeah, right.
would be,
Yeah, I thought that option was out.
Yeah.
Be available.
just like when they built the I-90.
But it would be cheaper to build a ramp bridge. You know, along the drop off to the railroad tracks. Than it would be to put one out in
Oh, gosh, yes.
the swamp bridge would be. But anyways,
It's like a
that's,
boardwalk,
it's about
elevated board.
like a 14-foot wide elevated. And they were talking about different kinds of materials. But between the highway and the railroad tracks, you could put a boardwalk of sorts. To stay away from, you know, you'd be on both right of ways, but if they gave approval, you could do that, then you wouldn't have to cross the tracks, just have to cross 70 or 26. Anyways, that's. Like Allison said, it's kind of a wishes kind of a meeting, that was all it was. Then the other meeting I had was the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health was last night. And discussed their budget, discussed new hires, and discussed the expansion that they're looking at as far as the services that they're providing, including housing for people that don't have housing available. They have to meet the criteria, but the different kind of housing facilities, like that new building they put up in downtown Winona, there's 5 apartments in there that they have, 1 3-bedroom, 2 2-bedrooms, 2 1-bedrooms that are full, and then there's other upcoming facilities that they're gonna be able to get into, so the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health is growing. They're providing more services and they're improving what they do, so they're getting better. The last thing I want to mention is, and Teresa, did you talk about it at the land use with regard to what Dick had looked up?
Mhm.
Okay.
But I mean, Eric, brought maps in today for him to make copies of and research it, but yeah. Eric was,
It's a state line issue.
Yeah.
On Shore Acre.
Mhm.
I'd asked her to have Dick look into it as far as where is the state line, and is there an accurate way to determine what the state line is?
It's gonna be a tough.
Mhm.
So that's the question. Well. Somebody's gotta have an accurate.
Well, you would think somebody would have
I
something.
know.
Well, that's what sound like it.
No, because Wisconsin did theirs first, and
Mhm.
Minnesota did theirs second.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
And
it's
it
not,
turned
it's
out to be
clear
a
as
quick
mud.
issue and, yeah. And because the people working on the Wisconsin side didn't get paid as much as the people working in the Minnesota side. Union wise,
That was for the bridge.
that was,
You're talking
by,
about-
that's by, yeah, but that brought up the whole
Yeah,
line issue.
See, they had a big powwow on this
Mm-hmm,
when they redid the interstate bridge.
yeah,
And the Minnesota DOT, the Wisconsin DOT, attorney generals and all got involved in this. They agreed to disagree, basically.
mhm. Because on some of the map shows these islands as Minnesota property, and on their maps, it shows that it's Wisconsin property. So, yeah, it's a little, they're working on it though. They got all the information and it's an issue, and there's no meeting with Harbor Committee yet to set up. Originally, they only met once a year. So,
No, we're waiting.
so like in July. So, but,
You're fair weather
well,
Yeah.
or commission.
mhm,
Anyways, that's all I have.
yeah,
Well, continuing on about land use, this morning, it also was brought up, Bob, that you had talked to Brian about the Crescent's quest for UTV,
UTV,
golf carts in town and stuff, and Brian, Teresa and I.
Yep.
Expressed to Brian that we'll, I think he said the same thing, we'll have to wait to see what the Crescent does before the county acts on it.
mhm, yes,
So that's what we're gonna do for now.
Because in that particular scenario, like Caledonia's got permits for UTVs and ATVs, not ATVs, but golf carts.
They already have.
Yeah, in Caledonia, but technically. County Highway 3 and County Highway. You know, Main Street, Winnebago Street are county highways.
right,
Can't be on it.
You're not supposed to be on.
right.
You sit out on Main Street, and up and down the highway, it's just not enforced.
But the thing is, the city of La Crescent doesn't okay to go on Elm Street, which is actually county six and everything. And yet certain areas like, not Horse Thief, the old racetrack, we used to call it, you know, they have to go on the highway to get into town. Because on the county highway, so there might have to be exceptions, but if we automatically, if we let them make the decision and do the research first. And, or if we say it's okay to do it, we're gonna have Spring Grove, we're gonna have Houston, all the other cities saying, well, Money Creek, everybody say, well, you let them do it, you know. So we're gonna let the city of La Crescent do their research on it first and then we'll deal with it after that.
In Winona County and Fillmore County, they've adjusted their ordinances to let you side by sides on their county roads.
Mhm.
And as of now, they haven't had any issues so far.
Right.
So,
That's strictly side by sides or what's?
yeah, side by sides and not, the four-wheelers are only limited to for farm to farm use. For farmers. Golf carts, I'm not sure. I can't say one way or the other. It's golf carts. For Fillmore, Winona. Yeah, some people modify those too.
Well, you know, but then I think it's the lights and seat belts and all those.
Glaciers and, yeah, anything else in there? Nothing real came out varied in land use. This morning, I missed the EDA meeting last Wednesday morning. Totally forgot about it. And so I'm too worried about getting my corn up before the rain came. But so I missed that. Judy, you could talk about that. We got a PMT meeting coming up on the 14th, a 2-hour workshop session to go through this. I don't know if you guys all gotten copies of this. Maybe you haven't. I think it was emailed to you.
That's
On
true.
Yeah.
our procedures, but how we're going forward. So that's coming up next Monday. And we got some homework to do before that meeting, so we're up to speed, right?
Yes, I'll do the midnight oil study.
Yep. So that's where that's at. That's all I got, I guess.
Okay, well, Bob touched on the bike mapping deal at La Crescent. It was interesting to see how some ideas came out and were discussed, and again, was said that when there's no money, no object, money is no object type of thing, they came up with some real good ideas. But anyway, the EDA meeting it's interesting that, and Allison can correct me if I missed something here. We had the meeting, we got the bike trail committee is meeting on the 16th coming up at the fire department building in Oka. We're going to talk about childcare. I think that's the biggest thing I got out of it is that there is a need. We're trying to come up with ideas. Having a childcare appreciation event in January with more details as we get closer. But we talked about some businesses who are doing quite well and ideas and trying to support the newest one in our area there, that Focus. So that's I think it's going to work out pretty well. They're doing quite well in following that from a personal note. So, but otherwise, we're in pretty good shape. I thought. Did I miss anything else?
No, so we are working on this childcare grant in February. We'll be doing a big town hall meeting. And so when we're closer to the date in February, I'll see what commissioners want to come. And if there will be a quorum, we'll just post it. But that would be a good thing for all the commissioners to attend if possible. It's going to be in the evening, on an evening night in February, but we'll discuss it when we get a little bit closer. So.
I read in the paper that docks in Spring Grove has been possibly purchased or something, and we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, no comment at this time.
Okay. Yep. It was in the paper.
But yeah, I think that yes, there's something in the works there. I don't know what's public and what's not, so I'm not gonna comment.
Is that where Pat's, Pat's going?
No, that's different. That's
Different deal?
There was property purchased for the future Fat Pat. And that is so that is public information.
That's it for me.
All right. Closing public comment. Do we have any? There we go. Come on up, Deb.
Study again. I just want clarification.
Come, so they can hear you.
Okay. I'm sure you know Deborah from the historical study, and I just have a question on the study. When you get a result, when they're done, what will you be presented with? Is it gonna be like just one plan? Or are they gonna have maybe 3 to choose one from? What is gonna be? You don't know. Oh. Go
I
ahead.
don't. Somebody got it.
Yeah. Because if they're gonna do, floor plans, I'm just, so this is it? Or are they gonna do several, scenarios that you could pick from? And if so, then I was thinking, well, $1,400 to include the jail wouldn't be that much to give you another option to look at. But I guess I don't know how the study is worked, if it's gonna be just one thing and this is it.
according to this, is they're gonna be interviewing all the office department staff and what their needs are, what their workflow is. And then go from there as far as what can be done within the the buildings we already currently use, whether it be combining them, or taking some walls out and stuff like that, and then come up with a plan or an idea of what we want to do there. As far as the floor plans, they already have floor plans drawn up from the last study they did, and it was 4 by 4. It wasn't just the whole building. It was floor 1, second floor, basement, so on. So
But you wouldn't, you've got those plans, but you wouldn't have a way to incorporate the offices that you're studying now into it if it isn't included in the study. And if you were thinking about ever getting rid of the building on the highway, that this would be an option because that's. I'm just saying, I don't think
We'll
you
see
get
what
many
they come up
options
with.
to pick from, one.
we'll see what they come up
Yeah.
with, and then if we need to, we could always expand on that at a later date.
If you come up with the option that there's no possible way you can fit everything that you want to do, eliminate the highway. Then have to look at something different.
Well, I just wanted clarification because I wasn't, because that other study, I think they had like. When they were talking about how to use the jail, they had came up with 3 different scenarios. And so. it
One of
was-
them was office space.
Yeah, one of them was the office space and then that's great from there, but anyway, I'm just trying to get clarified in my head what's be the result of the study. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Allison, you got anything? Carol?
No, just if you, do we want to?
When would you want to look at some budgets with finance committee? What day would work best for you? Next week, one day?
Next week, on Monday, it'll have to be early in the morning because we got 2 o'clock.
I got one at 1:30 that day. That's it.
Would 9 o'clock work?
14.
9 o'clock Monday,
Next Monday?
next Monday. Very good.
Greg, did you mention the canvas reading to the board?
Yep, me and Bob are gonna do it.
Okay, so we gotta change it to 2 o'clock, okay? 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock then?
Yeah, because that's what I told the state. I'm sorry. 2 o'clock, Monday, the 14th.
I just like to point out too, the Vikings are 7-1 now, so.
Gee.
doing
Get that
real-
on the.
Doing real well.
On there. Cause it's the first time in a long time. And it could go on a skid here, so we don't want, we don't wanna get too excited.
The next two games will be.
Yeah. Well, I guess next week would be work group session, correct?
Is it the third week already? Yeah, I guess it will be.
Mhm.
It sounds like TKDA is not coming to that one anymore. If I am understanding correctly, but we do have some other requests, so yeah. And we can talk about budget at that.
I think we'll have some better numbers in Monday morning and Tuesday morning. To talk about, everybody.
Yeah, because our meeting is the day before, so they're probably not gonna have enough time to get all that together for the workshop. Is my assumption.
Yeah, I had a request and then they were like, just kidding. And then I wasn't sure. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, I guess I need to know this week. So as of right now, I think it's no,
Did Luke have a request? No,
not yet.
Well, what do you guys think? Anything else anybody wanna talk about? Oh, shut her down.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
You got a motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.